For the last few years, AI has kind of been an experiment. It's been a soft era of voluntary frameworks, pilot programs, and, abstract principles. Well, in 2026, that all ends. The experimental phase is officially over.
And this is why. 2026 is the year the rubber really meets the road. All that abstract guidance gets thrown out the window and it's replaced by hard, enforceable law. We're talking expensive and in some cases, literally company-ending penalties. As you can see, the clock is already ticking.
So in this briefing, we're going to break this down like the global intelligence report it really is. We'll cover the end of this so-called soft era, dive into America's own internal regulatory battle, Europe's unexpected global power play, and the actual physical stuff that now defines national power.
Okay, first up, the end of the soft era. For years, we've all talked about AI ethics. Now, we're talking about AI law.
So what's really driving this shift? Well, it's the technology itself. We've gone from dealing with informational risks, like a chatbot making up a fact, to dealing with functional risks. Now you have agentic AI that can execute code, sign contracts, and move actual money. So what happens when an AI agent on its own executes a disastrous multi-million-dollar contract? Who's liable? Is it the user? The developer? Right now, no court has given a clear answer, and that legal vacuum is exactly what regulators are now racing to fill.
All of that uncertainty leads us straight to our next point. What's happening in the US is basically a regulatory civil war. We're not seeing some coordinated national response. Nope. What we're seeing is a chaotic clash between states writing aggressive new laws and a federal government that's actively trying to tear them down.
In this slide, it just perfectly sums up the conflict. The stated federal goal is a minimally burdensome national policy framework. Sounds nice, right? But the reality on the ground for any business trying to operate across the country is a tangled, overlapping, and very, very expensive patchwork of million-dollar fines.
Now, what's really fascinating here is just how different all these state approaches are. You've got Colorado, which demands reasonable care to prevent bias, a phrase that's both vague and legally powerful. Then California comes in, targeting the big frontier models with transparency rules and fines up to $1 million. Meanwhile, Texas and Illinois are zeroing in on specific things, like how you use AI in hiring or what you have to disclose to consumers. For a company, this isn't just one compliance challenge, it's a multi-front war.
So in response, the White House has this three-pronged playbook to try and get control back. First, litigate. They've formed a new AI Litigation Task Force just to sue states directly. Second, leverage. Threaten to pull federal money, things like broadband grants. And third, eventually legislate a big federal law that just overrides all of them. The irony, of course, is that the federal government is spending all its energy trying to stop the only people in the entire country who are actually writing any rules.
So while America is busy fighting with itself, Europe is quietly taking over the world. This is what's known as the Brussels effect, but for algorithms. Just through the sheer power of its massive market, the EU AI Act is becoming the global standard by default, whether other countries like it or not.
And this is creating a huge split. Just look at this preparedness gap. Companies that think they aren't affected by the EU AI Act are catastrophically behind. 74% are missing AI impact assessments. A staggering 84% have done zero AI red teaming. This isn't just a compliance gap, it's creating a two-tier world of AI governance. And if you're in that bottom tier, you are taking on some unbelievable unmanaged risk.
And to get into that top tier? Oh, it's easy. It's just a simple little 5-step checklist. First, you just classify every single AI system you use. Then, you assess them. Then, you create technical documentation that would make a rocket scientist weep. After that, you monitor them forever and report any problems. And finally, you register them all in a public EU database. Simple. This isn't regulation, it's the full-scale industrialization of compliance. And if you fail, well, the financial hit is just staggering. You remember the GDPR fines, right? 4% of global turnover? That was a big deal. The EU AI Act raises that to 7%. For a company like Apple or Microsoft, we are talking about a fine measured in the tens of billions of dollars. And meanwhile, at the US federal level, there's just nothing, no equivalent.
So why all this regulation? Well, it's because AI isn't just software anymore. It's a new kind of industrial and political power. And to understand that power, you have to understand its physical foundation, what we're calling the new sovereignty stack. First up, you've got compute. And we're not talking about your laptop. We're talking about massive, sprawling data centers packed with specialized chips. Whoever controls the compute controls the means of modern production. It's a strategic national asset, full stop. Next layer, data. Data is the fuel. But here's the thing. The cheap stuff, the public internet, has basically been used up. We've hit a data wall. The real value now is in that proprietary dark data that's locked away inside large platforms. These data moats are becoming almost impossible to overcome.
And finally, at the very foundation of it all is energy. This is the ultimate physical limit. You can have all the chips and all the data in the world, but without absolutely colossal amounts of electricity to power them and water to cool them, you have nothing. Energy is what dictates the pace and the scale of everything.
So here's the key takeaway, right? These three things form a stack. Energy is the foundation. Data is the value layer on top of that. Compute is the processing layer at the very top. And the nations that can control this entire stack, they achieve a new kind of power, sovereign intelligence. This is the new geopolitical map of the 21st century.
But there is a catch. This race for sovereign AI is already running into a massive problem. It's hitting a hard, physical ceiling. The whole era of just assuming infinite resources for exponential growth is over.
Let's just talk energy. By 2030, data centers are projected to demand 945 terawatt-hours of power. To put that in perspective, that is more than the entire current electricity consumption of Germany and France combined. This is putting an unbelievable strain on national power grids.
And then there's the cost nobody talks about, water. We're looking at 450 million gallons of water times every single day just to cool these places. This creates a direct, unavoidable competition with farming and with households, especially in dry regions. You're risking stranded assets and some serious social backlash. And like we mentioned, we've slammed into the data wall. Researchers figure there's about 15 trillion high-quality text tokens on the public web, and we've pretty much scraped all of it. The era of free, abundant training data is ending, which makes all that private, proprietary data even more valuable and way more geopolitically sensitive.
So where does all this lead? It leads to the final and maybe the most important consequence of all, the great AI divergence. The world is splitting in two, creating a new global order that's not based on military might, but on who owns the sovereignty stack.
We're basically seeing three tiers shake out. At the very top, you have the AI superpowers. Think the US and China, who are trying to control the entire stack. Below them, you've got the strategic autonomies like the EU or India, who might control key parts, like data, but they still depend on global supply chains. And then at the bottom, you have the digital dependencies. We're talking over 150 nations with no real domestic infrastructure. They are becoming the digital colonies of the 21st century, consuming foreign AI and living by foreign rules.
Which leaves us with the central question of our time. It's a modern twist on a very old, very powerful idea. It's not about who owns the means of production anymore. It's about who owns the means of intelligence. And the concentration of this new power in so few hands is going to define the economic and political landscape for the next 100 years.
But what's really wild is that this entire high-stakes conflict, this global realignment, this whole fight over the future of intelligence itself, it's not going to be decided by technologists in Silicon Valley or politicians in DC. As this quote makes clear, the White House can't just snap its fingers and erase state laws. This is going to be fought out in courtrooms. The final arbiters of this new world order are going to be judges.